We had salmon, wine, and routine. Then Allison said, "I'd like to update our wills." Her smile held something I couldn't quite name yet. "My name is Mark Caldwell. I'm 49, a systems engineer at Westinghouse in Pittsburgh. I've always preferred systems that make sense." She'd chosen Wednesday for this conversation, our quiet night. Salmon and asparagus on white plates in our shady side home. 12 years of marriage distilled into routine. I nodded, fork suspended. "Any particular reason?" "We're not getting younger," she said. Too quickly, too rehearsed. Something in her voice changed the temperature of the room. "Andrew could handle it for us," she continued, dabbing her lips with a napkin. "Remember him? My old friend from law school? He specializes in estate planning now." That was the second flag. "Actually," she said, reaching into a folder I hadn't noticed beside her chair, "I had him draw up some preliminary drafts, just to save time." The third flag went up silently. I took the papers, adjusted my glasses, said nothing. Allison kept talking about probate courts and tax implications while I scanned the first page. Our home, our accounts, our investments, all carefully documented, with subtle shifts in language from previous versions. "What do you think?" she asked, refilling her glass. "In systems engineering, we don't react to anomalies. We document them, analyze patterns, identify root causes." "Looks comprehensive," I said. "I'll need to review it carefully." Relief flickered across her face. "Of course. No rush." But there was a rush, wasn't there? Later that night, when her breathing became the steady rhythm of deep sleep, I slipped out of bed. The hardwood floors were cold under my feet at 2:17 a.m. I took the documents to my home office, the one place Allison rarely entered. "Too many cables," she always complained. Into the blue light of my scanner, I examined each page properly. Section 4.3 caught my attention first. Joint accounts reframed as primarily contributed assets. Section 7.2 restructured property ownership percentages. All roads led to one destination, her control. The scanner hummed quietly, capturing each page. I saved everything to an encrypted drive. Was this really happening? I'd built systems my entire career. Networks, databases, security protocols. I understood architecture, how things connect, how they're structured, how they fail. This was a system designed to fail me. I compared the new documents against our existing will. The changes were elegant, almost invisible to untrained eyes, small shifts in verbiage, tiny alterations in asset allocation, a masterful redistribution disguised as simple updates. My retirement accounts, our property holdings, even my father's inheritance, all flowing toward a single point, her. I closed the files and returned the papers exactly as she'd left them. Back in bed, Allison didn't stir when I slid under the covers. In the morning, she asked casually over coffee, "What did you think about those documents?" "Seem fine," I said, watching steam rise from my mug. "I'll need more time with them." She nodded, satisfied. "No rush. Andrew says we can finalize everything next month." "Who recommended Andrew again?" I asked, voice neutral. "Oh, we reconnected at that charity thing last year," she said. "Remember? The Children's Hospital fundraiser." I didn't remember any Andrew, but I nodded anyway. That afternoon, I created a new encrypted folder on my personal server. Named it Legacy, started collecting data. Not for confrontation, not for drama, for understanding the system. That evening, Allison mentioned casually that she'd scheduled a preliminary meeting with Andrew for the following week. "Just to get the ball rolling," she said. "Sounds great," I replied, eyes on my book. "Let me know how it goes." She smiled, kissed my cheek. "You're the best, you know that?" 12 years together, and I'd never heard that particular tone in her voice before. I waited 3 more days before making my first move. Watching, observing patterns. Allison checked her phone more frequently, stepped outside for calls. The system was changing. On Sunday morning, while she was at yoga, I made copies of everything, created backups of the backups, secured them in locations she didn't know existed. I didn't confront her, didn't demand explanations. Some betrayals require more than words. That night, I told her I'd reviewed the documents. I think we're on the right track, I said. I'd like to sleep on it a bit longer. Relief washed over her face. Of course, take your time. It's important to get these things right. She had no idea how right I would get it. I believe in systems, not confrontation. When something breaks, you don't immediately replace it. You diagnose. You trace patterns. You find the root cause. My marriage was breaking, or broken, but nobody could see the fracture lines but me. Monday morning, I left for work at my usual time, kissed Allison goodbye as always, drove 3 blocks, then pulled into the Starbucks parking lot instead of heading to the office. I'd called in a rare personal day, first one in 18 months. From my laptop, I accessed our home network remotely. Most people don't realize how much data their systems collect, how many breadcrumbs they leave behind. Allison certainly didn't. I started with login histories. Our shared accounts showed unusual patterns. Multiple logins from her device to our financial portals over the past 3 months. Nothing inherently suspicious there, just frequency. But why was she checking our retirement accounts at 1:22 a.m. on a Tuesday? I dug deeper, created a timeline of her digital activities, found small transfers, $500, 0 cents here, $700, 0 cents there, moving from our joint savings to her personal account. Building a cushion or testing the waters. The coffee grew cold beside me. I barely noticed. Next, I examined the metadata from her documents. The files she'd shown me weren't created by Andrew's law firm. They originated on our home computer. The properties showed they'd been edited 12 times, saved under different names, draft after draft, revision after revision, each one shifting more assets her way. Who practices a will 12 times? I stayed at Starbucks until lunchtime, then drove to a different coffee shop across town and continued. Our home server automatically archives deleted emails, a security feature I'd implemented years ago and never mentioned. Allison had deleted 37 messages from an address I didn't recognize. A Hansen at PCLLegalGroup.com. Andrew Hansen, partner at Pearson & Caldwell Legal Group, no relation to me, despite the name. The email started professionally, became friendly, then personal. I found one with an attachment. Dinner reservations from February at 11. Pittsburgh's most expensive restaurant. The night of her marketing team retreat. I didn't read all the messages. I didn't need to. The next morning, I acted normal, asked about her day ahead. Oh, I've got that quarterly planning meeting, she said, probably running late. I nodded, said I might too. We'd grown so accustomed to lying. After she left, I called my sister Clare in Virginia. She'd been a probate attorney for 20 years, never married, always suspicious of my relationship with Allison. Need your eyes on something, I said when she answered. Finally, she replied, send it over. I emailed her the documents, called her back on her secure office line 30 minutes later. This isn't about estate planning, Clara said, her voice tight. This is a staged siphon. The ice in my stomach spread to my chest. Explain. These clauses here and here, I could hear her tapping her screen. They are rerouting everything into a specialized trust, with her as trustee and primary beneficiary. But we both sign it, I said. Claire's laugh was short, bitter. That's what makes it brilliant. You'd be authorizing everything. She needs my signature. Yes, unless... A new chill settled over me. What aren't you telling me? I asked. Clare hesitated. Let me make some calls. I know someone in records. I waited, analyzed more data, created a secure archive of everything I'd found so far. 2 hours later, Clare called back. You need to check something, she said, voice tight. Look up Hamilton County, Ohio Recorder's Office. Public document search. I did as she instructed, entered my information, and there it was. A document had been filed 3 weeks ago. A will with my name on it. My digital signature. Except I'd never signed it. How is this possible? I asked, though I already knew. Digital signatures are surprisingly easy to fake if you have access to someone's accounts, Claire said. Most county offices don't verify beyond basic protocols. But why Ohio? Non-resident filings have less scrutiny, and their digital system is notoriously outdated. Everything suddenly locked into place. The months of planning, the careful groundwork. The Ohio document wasn't just a draft. It was insurance. Has anyone accessed this record? I asked. 3 times in the past week. Same IP address. She was checking her work, making sure it was in place. What's your next move? Claire asked. I stared at the screen, at my forged signature, at the future Allison had designed without me. I need to see how deep this goes, I replied. That night, Allison returned late, smelled of wine and expensive perfume, kissed my cheek distractedly. How was the meeting? I asked. Exhausting, she said, but productive. I bet it was. The next morning, I took a deeper dive into Andrew Hansen, found his profile on the firm's website. Harvard Law, specialized in estate planning and asset protection. Joined the firm 5 years ago. I kept digging, found a college newspaper photo. Andrew with his arm around a younger Allison, both smiling at a campus event. The caption mentioned the pre-law power couple, not just an old friend after all. Expanded my search, found more connections. Andrew and Allison had attended 3 legal conferences together in the past year. Always on weekends, I was traveling for work. Had she planned those too? I checked our calendar, found a pattern of her business retreats coinciding perfectly with my scheduled work trips. Like clockwork, too perfect to be coincidence. The final piece came when I accessed our family attorney's secured portal. Found drafts of documents I'd never seen, papers showing plans to consolidate my 401k, our home equity, and my father's inheritance into a newly formed trust, with Allison as sole trustee. Everything I'd built over decades, everything my father had left me, all of it being quietly redirected. But here's the thing about systems engineers. We understand infrastructure. We see the architecture beneath the surface, and we know exactly where to place the pressure points. Knowledge without action is just trivia. I had 7 days before Allison expected me to sign the documents. 7 days to dismantle the trap they'd spent months building. Claire connected me with James Mercer, a fiduciary attorney specializing in asset protection. No small talk, no questions about my marriage, just clinical efficiency. We'll need to work quickly, he said. We did. First move, create an irrevocable living trust, not in my name, not traceable through standard channels. The North Star Preservation Trust, James suggested. Anonymous beneficial ownership structure through a Nevada entity. The paperwork took 6 hours to complete, another 2 hours with a notary I'd never met before in an office I'd never visit again. No emotional decisions, just architecture. Day 2. I drove to PNC Bank, spoke with their estate planning division, authorized specific wire transfers from my primary accounts into the new trust. The bank officer raised an eyebrow. Substantial movements require a cooling-off period, Mr. Caldwell. I nodded. I understand. Proceed as required. I wasn't in a hurry. Careful engineering doesn't rush. That evening, Allison mentioned the will again. Andrew says we should finalize next Tuesday. Does that work with your schedule? Perfect, I said, handed her the wine bottle. Red or white tonight? She chose red. Always did. On Thursdays. Day 3. I filed paperwork designating my primary residence as the vacant property I owned in North Carolina, a small cabin on 3 acres, purchased 4 years ago as a potential retirement spot. Allison had hated it. Too remote, no cell service, no shopping within 20 miles. What kind of life would we have there, she'd asked. Not we anymore, just me. The county clerk processed the change without question. Residential designations shift all the time. Day 4 was the most complex. I transferred retirement accounts and savings into specialized vehicles protected by state-specific creditor laws. Wyoming, South Dakota, Alaska. States most people couldn't point to on a map, but with the strongest asset protection statutes in the country. Did you know certain states shield personal assets even against federal claims? Most don't. Allison certainly didn't. That night she left a folder of updated documents on the kitchen counter, post-it note attached. Final versions. I didn't open it, already knew what was inside. Instead, I texted back a thumbs up emoji when she asked if I'd seen them. First emoji I'd sent in years. She was getting sloppy, overconfident. Day 5. I contacted Robert Chen, a digital forensics specialist I'd worked with on a corporate breach last year. I need verification on document manipulation, I explained, and a chain of evidence trail. Robert didn't ask why. Professionals rarely do. He analyzed the metadata from the Ohio filing, confirmed what I already suspected. The document had been created on our home computer, modified using Allison's login credentials. Signature extracted from our tax documents. This would hold up in court, Robert said. As evidence, I mean, not as a valid will. I nodded. Package everything. Send it to this address, anonymously. The address belonged to the Ohio State Bar Association's Ethics Committee. I sent identical packages to the Pennsylvania Bar and the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. Let the system work. The same day, Clare filed formal inquiries through professional channels. No accusations, just procedural questions about unusual filings in Ohio for Pennsylvania residents. Breadcrumbs, leading exactly where they needed to go. You're sure about this? Clare asked during our encrypted call. I'm sure about what I know, I replied. Sometimes that's enough. Day 6 brought an unexpected development. Clare called at 6:15 a.m. Andrew Hansen is already under investigation, she said, voice low as if someone might overhear. Connecticut Bar Association, 3 complaints about document manipulation in estate cases. I sat up straighter. Similar pattern? Identical. Wealthy clients, redirected assets, forged approvals. The pieces fit too perfectly. There's more, Clare continued. All 3 cases involved the primary client's spouse as co-conspirator. Not just Andrew and Allison, a pattern, a system. He's done this before, I said. They've done this before, Clare corrected. Thought of Mrs. Abernathy and Andrew's client photos. Elderly widow, substantial estate. Her stepson Timothy, fighting for his father's assets. Another victim. Day 7. The day Allison thought I'd sign everything away. She dressed carefully that morning. Navy blue suit, pearl earrings I'd given her for our 10th anniversary. Big presentation today? I asked casually. Just client meetings, she said, checking her lipstick in the hallway mirror. Are we still on for documents tonight? Wouldn't miss it, I said. After she left, I made my final moves. Withdrew my will entirely through our family attorney. Left nothing to contest, nothing to claim. Then I waited. At 2:17 p.m. an email notification pinged. The Ohio Bar Association had opened a formal investigation into Andrew Hansen based on an anonymous complaint. By 3:42 p.m., Clare confirmed that Connecticut and Pennsylvania bars had connected their separate investigations. At 4:30 p.m., I received an automatic notification that Allison had signed and notarized documents at Andrew's office, her signature next to a space left blank for mine. She didn't just implicate herself. She linked herself to Andrew's entire pattern. Every case, every victim, every manipulation. When she returned home at 6:05 p.m., her expression was triumphant behind its mask of casual indifference. "Andrew says hi," she said, hanging her coat. "He's excited to wrap this up tonight." I bet he was. "Everything ready?" I asked. "I just need your signature," she replied, placing her briefcase on the dining table, the same table where this had all started. I poured her a glass of wine, her favorite Cabernet. "Let me freshen up first," I said. Kissed her cheek like I had thousands of times before. In the bathroom, I checked my secure email one last time. A message from the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. "Receipt confirmed. Investigation pending." Perfect timing. When I returned to the dining room, Allison had the document spread out. Signature tabs in place. Mont Blanc pen ready. The pen I'd received for my promotion 7 years ago. "Ready?" she asked, smile perfect. "Rehearsed." "Almost," I said. "Just got a strange email I need to check first." Her smile didn't waver. "Work can wait, can't it? This will just take a minute." I nodded. "You're right. Let's get this done." I picked up the pen, studied the documents one last time. All those careful clauses, all those subtle redirections, all that planning. "Actually," I said, setting the pen down, "there's been a change of plans." Her expression flickered, just for a second. "What do you mean?" I checked my watch. Right on schedule, her phone buzzed with an incoming call. Andrew's name flashed on the screen, and everything changed. Allison stared at her buzzing phone. Andrew's call. Third one in 5 minutes. "Aren't you going to answer that?" I asked. Her fingers hovered over the screen. "It can wait." "I don't think it can." Something in my tone made her look up. Really look at me. Perhaps for the first time in months. "What's going on, Mark?" "The FBI just issued subpoenas to Pearson and Caldwell Legal Group," I said. "Something about document fraud, forgery, multiple states." The color drained from her face. "One sheet at a time. How would you know that?" I shrugged. "News travels fast in certain circles." Her phone buzzed again. This time, she answered. "Welcome to the kitchen for privacy." I could still hear fragments. Andrew's panicked voice, words like investigation and serious allegations and don't say anything. When she returned, her hands were steady, but her voice wasn't. "There's been a misunderstanding at Andrew's firm," she said. "Nothing serious." I nodded. "Of course." "So, shall we finish these documents tomorrow instead?" "That works for me," I replied. She gathered everything quickly, too quickly, papers sliding against each other like playing cards being shuffled. The next morning, she left early. Didn't say where she was going. I didn't ask. 3 days passed, each with the same pattern. Allison leaving before dawn, returning after dark, taking calls in the garage or bathroom, speaking in whispers. I said nothing, did nothing, just waited. On day 4, I received a courtesy call from the FBI. Special Agent Teresa Mendez, Financial Crimes Division. "We'd like you to come in for a statement, Mr. Caldwell, strictly informational." I agreed to meet the following day. That evening, Allison didn't come home until 11:42 p.m. Eyes red, makeup smudged. "Rough day?" I asked from the couch, not looking up from my book. "Just work stress," she said. The lies had become our native language. "Andrew's been suspended from his practice," she added, voice carefully casual. "Some administrative thing." I turned a page. "That's unfortunate." She studied my face for a reaction. Found none. The next morning, I gave my statement to the FBI. Provided evidence of the forged documents, the manipulated wills, the pattern of deception. Agent Mendez took detailed notes. "Mr. Caldwell, I have to ask, why didn't you confront your wife directly?" I considered the question. "Would you confront someone who's spent months planning to destroy you?" She nodded slowly. Point taken. When I returned home, Allison wasn't there. Didn't come back that night, or the next. Her text came at 6:17 a.m. on day 7. I've been staying with a friend. Need some space to think. I didn't respond. 2 days later, a courier delivered an envelope. Inside, divorce papers. Grounds, irreconcilable differences, exactly as expected. The filing included a standard demand for full asset disclosure and distribution of marital property. Her attorney, not Andrew, requested an emergency hearing to prevent dissipation of assets. Too late. I contacted James Mercer, authorized him to provide the complete documentation of my amended financial architecture. Are you sure about this timeline? He asked. We could delay, negotiate. No, I said. Full disclosure. Immediately. Sometimes the fastest way through is straight ahead. 48 hours later, Allison's attorney received our response. A comprehensive portfolio of my new financial reality. The house, now legally designated as my North Carolina property. My retirement accounts, transferred to protected trusts. Our joint assets, properly distributed according to contribution documentation. My will retracted completely. Everything I'd built over decades, legally secured beyond her reach. James called me that afternoon. Her attorney just received the documents, asked for clarification 3 times. And I told him everything is properly filed and executed, no irregularities. Unlike her approach. The next day my phone rang. Allison. First direct contact in 12 days. I didn't answer. Her text followed immediately. We need to talk, now. I didn't respond. An hour later, she appeared at our front door, face pale, hands shaking, legal folder clutched against her chest. I let her in without speaking. What did you do? She whispered. Nothing illegal, I replied. Nothing manipulative, nothing dishonest. Unlike her. She spread the documents across the dining table. The same table where this had all begun, hands moving frantically between pages. This can't be right, she said. The house, the accounts, everything. It's all there, I said. Properly documented, legally executed. Her finger jabbed at a section. This says the house isn't even in your name anymore. Legally, my primary residence is in North Carolina. You never lived there. Residential designation doesn't require physical presence. She flipped to another page, frozen, reading the same line over and over. The North Star Preservation Trust? What is this? Where's your 401k? Properly secured. She turned another page, another, the reality sinking in with each one. Everything she thought she was taking, gone. Everything she'd spent months planning to acquire, beyond reach. You knew, she said finally, voice hollow. I said nothing. For how long? Long enough. Her breathing changed, shallow, rapid. The panic of someone watching their safety net disintegrate. Mark, we can talk about this. There's an explanation. I'm sure there is. The FBI called me in yesterday. Asked about Andrew. About documents I didn't even know existed. I nodded. The Ohio well with my forged signature? Her face crumpled. Not in sadness, in fear. How did you? Systems leave traces, Allison. Always. She stood suddenly. My attorney says this won't hold up. We can challenge everything. You can try. Clare's firm has already filed motions blocking any claims, I added. And with the ongoing fraud investigation involving you and Andrew, judges tend to be cautious about asset redistribution. The full picture finally assembled in her mind. The architecture of her new reality. Andrew has done this before, I said quietly. Did you know that? Connecticut, Maryland, with other spouses as co-conspirators. Her eyes widened. That's not... The FBI has the documentation, all of it, your signatures connecting you to his pattern. She sank back into the chair. I didn't know about any other cases. Maybe true, maybe not. The next day, the Ohio Bar Association formally sanctioned Andrew. Emergency suspension of his license. 3 days later, the FBI expanded their investigation to include 7 potential victims of their scheme. Among them, Timothy Abernathy's stepmother, just as I'd suspected. A week after that, Claire forwarded me an email she'd received. A thank you note from Timothy Abernathy himself. Your firm's inquiry triggered the investigation that saved my father's estate, he wrote. My stepmother and her lawyer nearly took everything. One system dismantled, one rebuilt. No victory speeches, no confrontations, just quiet architecture. That's the thing about revenge. The best kind doesn't announce itself. It simply changes the blueprint underneath your feet. 6 weeks after the divorce papers arrived, I drove north. No forwarding address left behind, no explanations given, no loose ends. Allison tried contacting me 3 more times, each message more desperate than the last, each one unanswered. The legal proceedings continued without my physical presence. My attorneys handled everything. System engineers understand when to step back, let the architecture work. 4 hours into my drive, I crossed into New York State. The highway narrowed into county roads, then dirt paths. Late October in the Adirondacks. Trees stripped bare, air sharp with coming winter. My father's cabin appeared at the end of the unmarked drive, just as he left it, just as it always was. 3 rooms, no neighbors for miles, the place where he'd taught me to fish, to build, to be silent. A man needs somewhere that's just his, he used to say. Allison had visited once, only once. It's so basic, she'd said, eyeing the propane stove, the outdoor pump, the outhouse 20 yards away. She'd refused to stay the night. We drove 2 hours to find a hotel. Now I parked and cut the engine, sat in silence for several minutes. No traffic sounds, no voices, no notifications, just wind through empty branches. The cabin door creaked open with my key, cold air inside, dust motes floating in pale sunlight through uncurtained windows. Everything exactly as he'd left it. Fishing rods against the wall, topographic maps pinned above the wooden desk, toolbox under the single bed. I didn't turn on the heat. Didn't need it. From my bag, I removed a metal lockbox. Standard issue, fire resistant. Nothing special about it. Inside, I placed a single sheet of paper with 7 words written in blue ink. Everything I built is here. Let them try. Locked it. Placed it on the shelf beside my father's old logbooks. The ones where he'd recorded every fish caught, every storm weathered, every visitor welcomed. The last entry was 3 years before his death, the day we'd fixed the roof together. In the stone fireplace, cold ashes from fires long extinguished. I crouched down, added kindling, split logs from the stack outside. Struck a match. Watched the small flame catch. From my pocket, I removed the copies of my old will. The one with Allison's name. The one with our shared future. Page by page, I fed them into the growing fire. No ceremony, no emotion, just paper returning to carbon and ash. When the flames died down, I stood, stretched my back, and walked to the desk where the old rotary telephone sat. Black, heavy, connecting to a landline few remembered existed. I unplugged it from the wall, coiled the cord neatly around the base. The silence deepened. Outside, evening approached, the temperature dropping with the sun. I checked each window, locked from inside. Checked the propane tank, turned off. Checked the water pump, drained for winter. System secured, infrastructure intact. At the door I paused, looked back at the space my father had built. The place Allison never understood. The refuge that couldn't be found on any legal document. And some things can't be taken. Some foundations can't be shaken. I stepped outside, locked the door behind me. No dramatic exit, no final statement. Just a man walking away from what was, toward what would be. The trees stood silent witness, the mountains unchanged by human schemes. Systems fail, systems rebuild, life continues in the silence after.